Hey, what's up, people? This is Gary A. Swaby, and you're now listening to the BookCast episode 9 on redditorgroup.com. I'm here with Miss Dana Abercrombie. How are you, Dana?
Hello, everyone. I'm doing great. Very tired, exhausted, but still great.
Oh yeah, there's a good reason why she's exhausted, but yeah, we're gonna be giving our official take on BookCon, which is where Dana has been, and that's why she is exhausted. So she's gonna be talking all about that and talking us through the whole experience and which books she got, which authors she spoke to, which agents and publishers she got to talk to and stuff like that. And we're also going to touch on a bit of publishing news, and we're going to dive straight into what we've been reading and what we want to read this month. So let's get straight into it, Dana. So when was BookCon 2018? Like, which days did it run?
Okay, so I went to both the Book Expo, which is more like for the people who's in the industry, and then I also went to BookCon. It started on May 31st. So I've been busy since, nope, it started May 30th. So I've been busy since last Wednesday. And so from May 30th to Friday, June 1st was the Book Expo. And then from June 2nd to June 3rd was the Book Con. So that's what I've been doing. So as I was saying, there's a separate. The Book Expo is for like the industry people, librarians, booksellers, and any type of press that does book reviews. BookCon is for everyone. You just go and you have fun and you experience books, and there's writing workshops, there's panels, there's books that's about movies or movies that they want to turn into books. So you have that. You have a bunch of politicians that showed up. We had Bill Clinton. We had Congressman John Lewis. We had couple other people that represented the American presidency, people who wrote books about Trump and people who wrote books about Mike Pence and people who wrote books about John F. Kennedy and Michelle Obama's book is coming out. She wasn't there though. I wish she was, but she wasn't there. But they had like people who represented her memoir that's coming out called Becoming. So that's the difference between the two. So I went to both of them, as I said previously, and it was, it can be a lot of fun. They just give you some books, but this year it was just, I don't know what happened. It was just kind of disappointing.
What was
The select
disappointing about it?
Here's the thing, compared to last year, now it's disappointing depending on what you're there for, what you're looking for. I'm a person who loves thriller mystery. That's my thing, right?
Yeah.
They had like a handful of that, literally like just a handful, but it was really heavily concentrated on a lot of YA. So if you're into YA books, which they are great and they are amazing, they really are, then like you're in your field day, you're in your happy element with that. So it was just the books that I was looking for, even though they were like two of them were considered YA, they just didn't have, or they had like samplers of. So you get like a chapter sampler, and it's like I don't want to sample. I want the whole book
So was
because
there
I
a
know.
lot of like fantasy YA and stuff like that? Because that's what I love.
And tons and tons of fantasy wise, up everywhere, just breeding fantasy. I got one book that's like 1,000 pages just of fantasy and a kingdom. Tons of that. A lot of witches and kingdoms and monsters and um just a lot of that stuff. I was really surprised to see there was a lot of books that was like about like relevant issues, a lot of political little like for kid books. That was really interesting. A lot of activism books. Angie Thomas, who's there, who did The Hate You Give, who's my favorite human ever. She was there. You guys know she has the movie the Hate You Give movie that's coming out this year in I think October, and she also has On the Come Up, which is a standalone. It's not a sequel, but it's just her second book that she's written. It's had so much success, it's hard to believe that she's only written one book, but she has another one coming out, her second book, On the Come Up. She was there. She was there representing her book. She was there representing The Hate You Give, and also, like I said, there's the movie. So very happy they showed the trailer for the first time to The Hate You Give,
Oh, nice.
and oh man, there were people were crying in the audience, and it wasn't like, oh my god, we're just really happy that they made this into a movie. They made this into, I'm going to say, the movie of the year.
Whoa, whoa.
A lot of movies of the year, but this is like the movie of the year that's just like, just watching the trailer alone, you can't get it out of your head.
Wait, so will this be more empowering than Black Panther was?
See, Black Panther, you can't compare the two. They work on their own level. This is about,
just in terms of the empowerment that you feel.
in terms of the empowerment thing, yeah. In terms of that, yes, absolutely. Just absolutely. It, for those who don't know, The Hate You Give is about this young girl named Star, and she witnesses her friend Khalil get killed by the police. And she lives in two worlds. She lives in her neighborhood, her African American neighborhood, and she goes to basically like a majority to all white school in a different neighborhood, because you know the school system and where she lives at is just really bad. So it's about her having to live both sides in the black world and also in the white world. So she has to blend in where both people feel safe. Where she doesn't say, when the black world, it's like, oh well, you're acting white, or in the white world, oh, you're acting black. Also, how this murder affects her mentally and has a rippling effect for the community, and how it deals with police brutality, and what does it mean when you are a police officer and you kill someone, and also one of the things that I love is, what does it mean when you're an African American police officer? Because here's the thing, when you take that police uniform off, you are still a black man and you're viewed as a threat. When you put the uniform on, you're considered a sellout. So it hits on a lot of different aspects and points, and they did that so beautifully so far. And what I just seen in the trailer alone, it's exactly like the book, and it has the same emotional impact, which is why everyone was crying. Even if you never read the book, there were people like, oh my god, this is amazing, and like it hits you, it hurts, and it reaches into your soul. And so I'm so looking forward for you guys to see that.
Yeah, I'm one of those people who still haven't read the book, but I'll make sure that I will read it by the time the movie's ready to come out.
You have to read the book, and at any age, because I was like, I'm not going to read this because I'm old, and why am I going to read YA? It's one of the first YA books that I read as an adult, and was like, oh my god. I think that it's more impactful than any type of adult book.
I do want to say one thing though about YA. Like, I feel like not everything fits into that box, like, because there's some YA books that are extremely mature, and I like to read the more mature ones myself. Like, I don't go too young with it. But yeah, I feel like there's a lot of YA that doesn't specifically fit in that box, but just because of the age range of the character, they just throw it in there, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But, I think this book in particular transcends its genre, like the YA genre.
So. Absolutely. There was one book that comes out later this year that I was able to get. It's basically called I'm Okay. And it's about a 7-year-old whose mother, single parent, they're about to be homeless. She lost her job. She's 7. And his goal is, what can I do to make us money so that we can stay in our home? And he's 7. To me, that's not a YA book. It's really deep and it's really heavy.
Yeah.
So
was that written by Gary Vaynerchuk?
No, that's by Patty Kim.
Okay.
And he's a Korean kid too, on top of that.
Oh, he's Korean?
Yeah.
Oh, I might have to read that.
Yeah, so it's like him dealing with, being Korean and, how trying to fit in. And then on top of that, oh, we're about to be homeless now because mom doesn't have a job. So that weighs a lot on a kid. And you don't think that it does, but you try to keep that away from the child. But children are smart. They're able to figure things out.
What was the name of that book? Can you remember?
I'm okay.
I'm okay. Okay. All right. Yeah, carry on.
Yeah. So as I was saying, yeah, a lot of what do you fantasy, a lot of dragon tales and sword fightings and stuff like that. So if you're very happy about that, then it was a really great con. And I'm not saying that it's terrible. Overall, my haul was 300 books, so I'm not complaining.
Whoa.
I just didn't get what I wanted, but I did get one book that I didn't plan on ever getting. I didn't think that they would even have. I didn't know if it was available yet. And like when I saw it, it was sitting on an empty box in the corner, abandoned, alone. And it was like, Dana, come, I'm here for you. And so I saw it down the hall. Jacob Javits is very big, if anyone's been there. But I somehow just zoomed right in and I saw it and I went sprinting like a crazy psycho person. And it's called Vox, VOX. It is, I'm going to say, the book of the year. And I haven't even read it yet. It's about women, and they're only allowed to say 100 words. That's it. And what that they're able to only write and say 100 words. So it's about how that affects women in their lives.
Wait,
But
so
men are fine because they wrote the law.
also it's a law, like it's a political thing then, so they can't.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a little bit of The Handmaid's Tale in there.
Interesting.
So it's crazy. But it's one of those books that I'm telling you, it's gonna be a book of the year. I've been hearing about this book for like a year now. And to see it, and it wasn't like any type of promotion. And it wasn't even supposed to be there.
Wait, it's out already?
Huh? No.
Oh.
It doesn't come out until I'm gonna say it comes out on August 12th.
Okay.
Yeah, it comes out on August 21st. It's called Vox, VOX, a novel. It's by Christina Dolcher. And it says, in an all too realistic near future, the government has placed a limitation on speech of women and girls, 100 words a day. The price for exceeding one's daily quota is a painful electric shock administered via the counter adorning each female's wrist. How would you raise your daughter to be a strong and independent woman? How would you teach your son to respect women? How would you react when your husband gently reminds you not to speak? If you only had 100 words a day, what would you do to be heard?
So definitely sounds interesting. I'm gonna add that to the list of stuff I'm gonna read.
It's powerful. And it comes out August 21st.
But yeah, like even though you were disappointed with BookCon, to me it seems like an amazing event because we don't really have anything like that here. Like we have London Book Fair, which is more like the book expo that you described. It's more of an industry thing, where there's publishers, agents, and writers and self-publishers and things like that. Like it's more focused on the business, and there's not really actual readers going there and stuff like that. But I wish there was an event like that where you had readers going and you could pick up a lot of books and stuff like that. Like that's what I want in the UK. So next year I think I might have to just come to New York with an empty suitcase and just come to BookCon or something, man.
Yeah, you have to come to the book expo. Pay for everything. Like they had here's the part where I was surprised about. Last year they didn't have like any type of free books, but they did here. You just had to stand online all day and try not to die. Wow. So they did give out like pretty decent books. I just wasn't able. I know that Pride was there. Those who don't know who Pride is, Pride comes out, I believe, in a lot of books come out in August. But Pride is the retelling of Pride and Prejudice, but they're Black Latino, and it takes place in Harlem.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, I might have to get that too.
So that right there is amazing. Also, there I've been ranting and raving about this book for the longest, of Warcross, right?
Yeah, the sequel
By
coming.
There's the sequel, Wild Card. They gave out like small little samples for that. I wish they had the full book. I wish that was there. Even it was on display, but we couldn't take it, obviously, because I would have easily taken it. But that is a very highly anticipated sequel, and I love Marie Lou's writing, so that comes out as well. So
Was Mary Lou there?
I wish Marie Lou was. No, she was there. She did a panel, so Marie Lou was there.
But you didn't get to see her.
I got to see her briefly. I also got to see Tomi. I cannot pronounce her name. She is the author of Blood and Bone, which is a kind of like a Black folk culture novel. This is going to be like a trilogy. It already came out, the first book, and it's amazing. She was there signing, autographs, and her sequel comes out, I believe, next year to the book. So, like, there were people there. It just wasn't a lot of really great books.
Oh well, I'm glad you went there and gave us the review of it and everything. And sounds like you have a lot of books now. I might have to like pull up in New York and take some off you at some point, but
I already know that.
But yeah, sounds good. Hopefully, next year will be bigger and better, and hopefully I'll be able to go because
Hopefully,
that's a dream.
be stingy with their books.
Yeah,
A lot of fantasy, so much fantasy.
I love me some fantasy. But yeah, moving on to our other topic of discussion here. So, big story came out last week about an accountant who embezzled 3.4 million from a famed literary agency. So basically, this was the agency that they're responsible for books such as Fight Club by Chuck. How do you pronounce his name? Sorry, I can't.
Oh, you're asking the wrong person now. I think it's I can barely pronounce my own.
I think it's Palahniuk or something.
Palahniuk.
Yeah,
it's the Fight Club guy. Everybody knows Fight Club.
I think we're really butchering that, but yeah. So he published Fight Club, and this agency that had the money stolen from the accountant, they're responsible for that book being published. And leading up to this, like, there had been authors such as Chuck himself complaining that they wasn't receiving as many royalties and things of that nature. So yeah, they found out this accountant was basically he was taking, like, he was paying himself money from extra money from the agency's account, and then changing their the bookkeeping to make it show that the money went elsewhere. So this seems like a pretty common thing that accountants can do, I think. And it's pretty dodgy, and it's a shame that it really affects the publishing industry. And the thing I want to advise all publishers, as someone who, I don't claim to be an expert or anything like that. I haven't, I'm not a successful publisher or anything, but I do listen to a lot of book publishing podcasts, and I've done a lot of research on the matter. And everybody, who is an aspiring writer or author or book publisher, you need to make sure that you're fully going through all of these, the legal paperwork and everything before you sign on, before you agree to terms with an agency or a publisher. You definitely need to do your research and understand what rights you're giving up, what percentages, and you need to keep an eye on the royalties that you're getting to make sure it is what it should be as well. The thing that agencies tend to do, because for those who don't know, the agencies are the bridge between the publisher and the author. So the agency will represent you in getting a book publishing deal, and they'll usually, the book publisher will pay the agency directly, and then the agency will give you your cut. But what authors should do, but it might be hard depending on their demand. But what they should do is tell the book publisher that they want the money to be split. So like the publisher will pay the agency separately and they'll pay the author separately. So then that way they're just, everyone's getting their correct cut straight away. But the agencies will, if you're a new author, I guess they'll try to make it so the money comes from them, So authors need to be aware of these kind of things because, this is what it could lead to. And you already, like, authors are already underpaid these days. So yeah, it's a pretty big deal. But do you have any thoughts on this, Dana?
It's one of those things really sad and terrible. And, sometimes it's just unavoidable. People are going to find a way to embezzle. And they also hit the estates of Robert Stone, Mario Puzo, Frank Conroy, Nelson Algren, Peter Mathesine, and Studs Terkel. So, yeah, this is just really, really unfortunate that happened. And Chuck has basically canceled shows and his convention appearances because he lost his income, and now he's stating that he's broke. He can't attend anything. And he said that all the royalties and advance monies in the film options that have been accumulated by author in New York or had been delayed somewhere in the banking pipeline, it's all gone. So remember, he has the Fight Club 2, the sequel that came out. He doesn't have money that's coming in from that anymore. He's going to turn a lot of his books into movies, especially the sequel. That's not happening. He doesn't have the money. So it's really unfortunate. My heart goes out to all of them.
Yeah, that's some serious stuff, man. And I feel like this is probably something that's been going on for years, but we just never hear about it, And like you mentioned, Mario Puzo was one of the authors affected by this. He's dead now, but he has a long legacy in the book publishing industry. So, to know that this sort of thing has been going on and it's affecting, huge caliber authors and everything, like that's it's very unfortunate to hear that sort of thing. But and I guess that's why more people are finding success in self-publishing, So yeah, that's what happens. But let's get to the exciting part of the show where we talk about what we've been reading in over the past month or so. So would you like to go first, Dana, or do you want me to go?
Okay, I thought you was gonna go, but I can go. All right. So, you want to go? Go ahead. Go.
Yeah, I'll go for it. Okay. Yeah. So, not too much really. Just about 3 books or so. So of course, the book for May that we featured on Redditor was The Sign of the Four by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and this is a Sherlock Holmes story. It's actually the second Sherlock Holmes novel. I've actually read this before, like maybe around 9-10 years ago or something like that. Because I have like the entire collection, but I've been rereading them recently. I read A Study in Scarlet, which is the very first Sherlock Holmes story where he meets Dr. Watson, and that was the first kind of mystery that they they get dragged into and everything. So this one, The Sign of Four, is the second novel that Conan Doyle wrote about Sherlock Holmes and Watson, and it introduces another character into the fray, which is Mary, and she ends up, marrying Dr. Watson. As anyone who watches Sherlock or has read the books or whatever, you'll know that. So this is the story where she's first introduced. And I feel like this is a better overall novel than the first one was, because I guess the first one spends so much time building the chemistry with Sherlock and Watson, and the actual mystery isn't that interesting. But in this one, it's like there's a lot of action, and the mystery actually keeps you guessing along the way too. So you actually want to find out what happened. So the mystery is basically Mary, who who ends up married to uh, Dr. Watson down the line. She comes to Sherlock Holmes and says that she's been receiving pearls in the post like every year on the same date. And then all of a sudden, she gets sent an invite to meet someone. And, they tell her you can bring someone with you if you're, scared or anything. And of course, she chooses to bring Sherlock Holmes because, he's kind of popular at this point. He's been making a name for himself as an investigator. So they go and meet the person, and basically it's the son of somebody who knew Mary's father. And there was basically some kind of plot that happens. I don't want to say everything but it involves treasure. And basically they were supposed to send her, they were supposed to send her a piece of the treasure because her father died. They were supposed to send her a piece of the treasure every year to cover, his side of like what her dad earned basically from the treasure. And then, the father who knew Mary's father, the guy's father that they're meeting, he ends up dead. So then, they have to, it's another layer to the investigation. They have to find out what happened there. And yeah, can't say too much else without spoiling the actual mystery, but it's a very short book. So, if you are interested in getting into Sherlock Holmes, you can pick it up and get through it pretty quickly, to be honest. And yeah, obviously it's classic literature, so you gotta expect, old English kind of, writing and everything like that. But yeah, good story. Good story.
Wow.
I like to revisit those stories every now and then. So yeah. And I also read Black Privilege. I can't talk today, sorry. Black Privilege by Charlamagne the God. So for everyone who doesn't know, I'm sure Dana knows because she's in New York. But Charlamagne the God is, one of the hosts of the Breakfast Club, which is a popular radio station, in New York. And he this is basically his autobiography, with him talking about how he rose into the industry, being that he was from South Carolina, in a town, like a very small town that nobody's really heard of or knows much about. And he talks about his rise to where he is now and how he got into the industry. But it's not your typical autobiography where he's just telling you his life. He's also giving you life advice with it. And basically giving tips on how you can approach certain things. And even though it's called Black Privilege, I would say that a lot of the advice in this book can apply to people of all, walks of life. So whether you're Black, whether you're white, you're Chinese, you're Asian, Indian, it can apply to everyone. But it's called Black Privilege just because he is Black, and obviously Black people are going to identify with his come up more because more people are familiar with the oppressed lifestyle. More it applies more to minorities, so that's why it's called Black Privilege, because it shows how you can rise above that and not let it keep you closed off from everything else. But a lot of the stuff in there actually applies to everyone anyway. So I think it's a book for everyone, and it gives you a lot of good, honest life advice. And we know Charlamagne for being a very truthful person. When he interviews people, he'll go straight for the jugular and ask them the questions that make them most uncomfortable. And he's not afraid to give his opinion. And what I like is that he breaks down why it's important to, not have any fear and just, make sure you're always speaking your mind and don't try and hold anything back, because the feedback you give people will actually help them get better. So he gave some good life advice in terms of, how to deal with people and everything, and how to rise through the ranks in any industry. And yeah, I felt like it was a pretty good book to read, like especially as, grown man and everything. Um, I think, anyone can read the book, but like, just as a grown man with aspirations, I think it's very, empowering to read.
Mm.
Have you read it, or have you wanted to read it?
I have not read his work, but I'm happy he's successful.
Do you even like Charlemagne? Like, do you have an opinion on him?
No, I don't have anything negative or positive. He does what he does, and he's very successful at it, and I don't have anything negative about that.
Cool. Yeah, he also talks about how difficult it is to break into New York radio. So him being from South Carolina, like it definitely wasn't easy, but he shows how good networking can elevate you to, the biggest platforms if you do it right and everything. So
I believe that.
very, very inspiring.
I do believe that. Yeah.
Yep. And also, and I wrote a review about this. This has been a very controversial book, may I add, but I read a novella called A Court of Frost and Starlight. Now, I know you've heard of this series before. So this is set after the Akotar series, which is A Court of Thorns and Roses. It's a YA fantasy kind of novel with, a lot of sexual undertones and, things of that nature. But yeah, like this was not good though. Like it was supposed to be a book that bridges the gap between the last book that came out and the next one that's going to come out. And this was only like 200 pages, but literally nothing happens in this book. Like basically, it's Christmas. Like, well, it's called Winter Solstice in the book, but it's Christmas, and the lead characters, Feyre and Rhysand, they spend the entire book basically worrying about what to get each other and what to buy for their friends. And, all this is going on in kind of a fantasy world, of course, but it's like they literally have nothing else on their mind besides, buying each other gifts and getting intimate with each other. And it gets to the point where it's kind of creepy. And it's definitely not what I was expecting. I think it was very lazy. And especially because the author, Sarah J. Maas, I do like what she does. She's not like, the most prolific fantasy author out there or anything like that, but I like how she writes very complex fantasy, but like she does it in an easily accessible and easily digestible way. And I think that's her strength. But this was just very lazy. It seems like a cash grab, and it literally nothing happened to grow the characters further. Like there's no journey, there was no extra journey or anything. Like I feel like the characters weren't any better than they were in the previous book. And there was just no growth at all. So it was a cash grab basically, and I was very disappointed. I'm probably not even going to continue with the series anymore. So yeah.
Ooh.
So yeah, whenever she puts a new book out, I'm not even going to read it probably.
What?
So
No. As you're telling, you tried to get me to read it. I can't believe that you're saying it's only one bad book.
yeah, but like the series gets kind of worse as well, because like the best book was the second book in the series. The first book was okay, it was like average. Second book was phenomenal, definitely the best. The third book was just a little below average for me, so it's like the quality isn't getting any better. So and it's starting to seem like it's just cash grabs at this point. So there's no reason to continue with it.
I'm really shocked because you went crazy over that series, and to say you're not going to read it again, man, you're letting a lot of people down because at BookCon it was nothing there but all that whole series.
Oh, really? They had that though?
People, little kids screaming over it. Oh my god! Yay! Oh wow! I'm really shocked to hear this from you.
Yeah, and plus, like, um, I read another kind of fantasy series that was like way better than this, like called Six of Crows by Lee Bardugo. Um,
Mm.
and that book was phenomenal, like, because it's the same kind of it's I wouldn't say it's YA, it's more new adult. And yeah, like the character, the way she built the characters in this in her book was, the way she developed them, it was phenomenal. Like it's a heist book, and it's about a gang who has to, they're paid a sum to basically kidnap this person from this fortress basically. And the plot is kind of bland when you say it out loud, but like the plot takes a back seat. It's all about the characters and their backgrounds and how they come together and how they work together. A lot of them have grudges with each other, but then they kind of overcome it as the book progresses and stuff. And this is exactly how I like my fantasy. Like it's, you feel fulfilled after reading it. Like they're just seeing the growth of each character. So I think that outshined, the A Court of Frost and Starlight by far. And it just made it seem, a lot worse after, by the time I finished reading it. So yeah, when you have stuff like that out, you can't just put out a lazy book like, A Court of Frost and Starlight. So yeah.
Well,
Yeah, but that's pretty much all I've been reading, so I guess it's your turn. I feel like I've been talking a lot.
yep. Let's see. The Perfect Mother by Amy. I want to say Malloy. Malloy. It's Molloy. It's very simple. It's about this book. It's about this group of mothers who all give birth at around May. It's called the May Mothers. It's like a little group that they form with each other. And one of the mothers, your children, goes missing. It starts out, tells you what happens. One of the mothers is really frantic. She's always tired. And so they decide, why don't you just go out? We're going to take you out for an evening. We have a babysitter. Everything's going to be fine. And it's just one evening. So we'll just take you out. You enjoy what it is to be free. And so the woman comes. She's a little bit late. And she comes and she kind of has fun. You can see she's, trying to loosen up a little bit, but she keeps constantly looking at her phone. So the people are thinking that, well, she's just worried about her kid. It's the first time that she's leaving her kid alone by herself. But, it doesn't really seem to be the case. Anyway, so everybody goes on about their day, and then they discover that the next day that the baby was taken. The babysitter's like, I don't know where the kid is. I don't know what happened. The kid's not here. And so it's this story about where's the child, what happened to the child, and it unfolds where you find out how each of the mothers are living basically these double lives. Like, for example, one of the women is having an affair. The other one is, has other secrets that's going on. I'm not going to reveal everything because that's what takes away from actually reading the book, is knowing everything that happens. But I will say that it is very good. It's one of those great thrillers that just keeps you trying to figure out everything that happens. There are multiple characters that come in and out, so it makes it a little bit confusing figuring out who is who. But once you are able to do that, it's a rather decent book, and I think that it's really great. It's going to be a movie later on this year. HarperCollins, I believe, not HarperCollins, Amazon sold it, and it's going to be made into a movie. It's going to star Kerry Washington. And, the thing is, I don't picture her as being the actress, but somehow they're going to make it work with her. So yay for her and that. So I don't have a problem with it. It's a very good book. A lot of different things that happen. You discover that the woman is like some big time ballerina, and she ran away from that life, and you have to find out what exactly was she running away from, who is the baby, who's the father of the child, what's going on in that. And then you have to find out also, does any of the other mothers have some type of motive against her? So, as I said, it's one of those mystery thrillers, and it's very good.
Wow, how long is it? Is it a long book?
No. It's a very short book. It's only, let me see, 317 pages.
Okay.
So it's pretty short and
what was the name again?
The Perfect Mother.
Perfect Mother. Is it like, is it as good as The Nanny? That
See,
other book.
It's not fair. That's just not fair.
Why not?
See, good as it's good. It stands on its own as good. But The Nanny was just, see, you can't compare it, but The Nanny was better. But that's just not fair to say that The Perfect Mother, because now it's like, oh, The Perfect Mother isn't that great. But it is great. It's a good book. It's just, much different than The Nanny. The Nanny was just, you knew everything was going to happen. You just didn't know why. And so it was about why. And this one is what happened and then why. But it's one of those psychological breakdowns. This one is more like a thriller. This one is like an explanation into getting into somebody's head to understand why they did what they did. This one is just, I would say it's a standard thriller. The Nanny was just on a different level.
Okay, so The Nanny is more psychological. This one is more, mystery kind of focus. Okay.
Yeah.
So what else have you been reading?
One of the other books is Higher Loyalty by James Comey. It was very big in America. It's basically about what happened to the guy who was the former FBI director, and he was fired. So it's about it's about what happened to him, why he was fired, his thoughts about the current presidency, and what he hopes comes out of there's a huge FBI investigation about the Russian probe. So it's about his thoughts and his ideas and everything that happened with him. So I would say if you want to learn about, what happened and what's going on with this presidency and what's going on with this government on either side, if you want to just, find out what's going on in general, it's one of those books to read. So you can say it's kind of like a thriller because you're trying to guess what's happening. So you can argue that. It's a political thriller. You can leave it like that. Another book that I've read is called Devils Within. It's S.F. Hinson. It is it's a YA book. But remember how we was talking about before how YA it's one of those weird categories where I guess just a teenager they throw everything into. It's about Nazis, the skinheads. Yeah, basically it's about this guy whose name is Nate. It was the 8th time that he stabbed someone, right? He did it when he was 11, and it talks about him being a part of the Aryan Nation and about, his, the initiation and, brotherhood that he was basically, I don't want to say he wasn't necessarily born into, but he just fell into. And so it's about him growing as a person later on, because he ends up in trying to change his life. He ends up in custody, and he's now living with an uncle that he never knew existed. And he basically undergoes a new different life and a new identity. And it's about him changing and him accepting people of color and his different viewpoints. And he just also happens to be a teenager. So it's very much like American History X. But it's
Okay.
very, very well done. It's very well written. And it's just a really great study of a person and how we can change our mindset to, you know, become someone who we didn't think we can be if we just opened up our ears and listened instead of spoke.
Yeah. That's a
And learn what to, you know, live with, you know, with different people and in different worlds. So it's very good. But, you know, he ends up trying to leave that world, but, you know, the old world is calling him back. Even though he's like escaped and he's changed his identity and he's in a new neighborhood and he's living with his relative he doesn't know, it's always that temptation of, you know, what's going about that the other life that he had, trying to call him back and saying, what are you doing? This is wrong. This is where you belong. Why are you hanging out with these type of people?
So does he try to better those people that are stuck in that mindset?
He does, but not everything goes according to plan. Like this, they keep it very realistic. This is not some type of after-school special where it's like, "Yay, we love all," and all the Nazis come together and hold hands with the blacks and the Hispanics and the Asians. It's not like that at all.
Okay. And what was the name of it again?
It's called Devils Within.
Devils Within.
Yes, and it won an award. That's how I stumbled upon this book. It won one of those literary awards that I can't think of because there's 20,000 of them. And I was like, what is this? It's Nazis. So, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, sounds good. Like, who wrote this? Like, what nationality is the author?
The nationality of the author is a white woman from the South.
Wow. Okay.
Alabama.
Cool.
And it's her first novel.
I'll definitely have to look into that one.
Yeah, so it's not bad. It's one of those books that's like, wow. And it really stays with you. It's really heavy. And I'm like, this is not a kid's book.
Yeah, and you said that was supposed to be YA? Like, wow.
There's this
Okay.
one. It's YA.
Okay. Yeah, so what else? Anything else you've been reading?
That would be it. Those three. It's been a kind of like a really busy month. So those three.
Yeah, I feel you. Okay, yeah, so that's what we've been reading. I guess let's jump right into what we want to read in June. So I guess I'll start with this. It's not too much. It's just like, you know, one book and a couple that I've been meaning to read. So the main book I'll be reading is Binti by I hope I don't butcher this, but Nnedi Okorafor, who's, you know, a Nigerian American author. And this book is about, you know, a young lady who's part of the Himba tribe on Earth, and she enrolls in this university in, you know, it's a intergalactic university. She enrolls in it and she's accepted, and she becomes the first of her tribe and her region to be accepted in, you know, an intergalactic space program like that. So but her family, her tribe doesn't want her to go. So she has to kind of sneak away, you know. And this story is just about her journey, about going to, you know, the intergalactic university. I believe it, you know, when she's on her way there into space and everything, I believe she gets intercepted by an alien race or something. But yeah, it seems pretty interesting, and it's getting a lot of great reviews at the moment. So it caught my attention. I like the artwork on the book cover and everything as well. It's actually a series, and the book, from what I know, is quite short. The first one, like, it's about 100 pages or so. It's more of a novella, but yeah, I've heard great things about it, so I thought I'd give that a try. I do want to read, more sci-fi as well. I just have a thirst for sci-fi, so it seems interesting.
Wow.
Besides that, I also want to read Crown of Midnight, which is another one of Sarah J. Maas's books, but it's a different series. So I just wanted to, read that and see how that is. And also, oh man, what was the other book? There was a book that you recommended to me a while ago that I feel like I need to actually read it this month. It wasn't The Nanny, it was the one you read before or after that one. I can pull up the name in just a second, I think.
Remember, I just recommend everything to you.
Yeah, you recommend so many books. Man, I should have had this in front of me. Just give me one sec. Oh, this is so slow. The Kind Worth Killing. There we go.
Oh, yay!
Yeah. So I'll edit that whole part out. But yeah, The Kind Worth Killing. That's another one that you recommended to me that I've been wanting to read. And I do want to read some more mystery. I think it's been a while since I really read, a good mystery book. So
It's thriller. It's so sick. It's full of characters that are just terrible.
yeah, so this is the one where basically guy meets a woman in the airport and he creates a plot to murder his wife or something, right?
No, the guy, yes and no. He's meets this random woman in the airport. He's drunk. He's angry. He just found out his wife is cheating on him, and he's like, you know what? I want to kill my wife. And she's like, yay, let's do it. And he's like, okay, you're crazy, and I'm joking. And you see what happens there.
Cool. Yeah, so I'm excited to read something a bit dark and twisted as well because I need
Peter's
to.
Sick man.
Yeah, I need to split up all the fantasy I've been reading and have something a bit more dark and twisted and something more real as well, with no magic and stuff. So
Yay.
yeah, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it in terms of what I want to read. We'll see if I actually stick to that. But yeah. What about you? What do you plan on reading?
Okay, so like this plan, as in like I'm planning. I'm gonna have to sage you as well. I hope I can get to this because this is gonna also be a lot of begging and pleading authors to give me their copy. First one is Baby Teeth. It is by OG Stage. It is about a terrible. I love my relationships that always just crumble. It's about a volatile relationship between a stay-at-home mom, Suzette, and her mischievous mute daughter, Hannah. Hannah is not exactly well behaved. She intentionally cuts mom's hair, calls her weak and stupid, and feeds paint to a schoolmate, among other antics. It's about their relationship, and it's twisty, delirious read that will constantly question your sympathies for the two characters as their bond continues to grow. So that sounds really interesting, and I want to attempt to take a crack at that to see how that goes. One of another books is a nice one. This is not something that's going to be, I hate my husband and child. The other one is called By Invitation. It's really cute. It's about a wedding. A wedding and how everything seems to go completely crazy. The two families don't exactly like each other. They're both very rich. The other one is like old money rich, and the other one is kind of like new money rich, and they look, down on the new money rich. So it's about that, and it's really cute. It's really adorable. So that should be something that's, less problematic in terms of, characters that hate each other. So I can step away a little bit from the darker books and more into the happier ones. The other book, though, is I'm returning back to my I hate certain things, say hate my family type book. So this one is The Family Next Door. This is by Sally Hepworth. Basically it says like from the outside everything is like a beautiful relationship in the family and everything is, really great, and they're planning on having a second baby. However, there's a new woman that comes in and she's like really, young, and people are curious about her and they want to know why she's single. Why doesn't she have any kids? And like, this is a town that she moves in that's full of kids. So it's like, why doesn't she have any kids, and what she's doing here, and what does she do as a living, and what kind of job does she have, and what are her friends? And so it's about discovering that this woman has came into the neighborhood and that it's no accident why she's there. So you kind of have to find out, why is she there and what's going on, and maybe she's sleeping with someone. Who knows? So it's one of those books.
Wait, say the name of that one again.
The Family Next Door.
Okay, I thought it was something else because there's a book called The Couple Next Door as well. So I thought it was that one.
That's the book that I hate.
Okay.
That's the Sharpie LaPena one.
Okay, yeah. Where a lot of these book names sound the same.
They do. I was going through the books and it was like 20 different things of like love in the title. And if you remember before, there's a lot of different perfects. Remember, there's the perfect mother, the perfect nanny, the perfect husband.
Yeah,
it's a lot similar. Yeah.
It's like a trend thing because remember when Gone Girl was popular and like every book had girl in it.
Yes,
so I guess it's like that.
Yes, tons of girls and perfects and love and family. Yeah, it's that weird trend.
Yeah.
And so it's weird. So then that's The Family Next Door, Sally Hempworth, and not to be confused with The Couple Next Door. But then there was also one more book. It's called Taylor Johnson Was Here. It's a YA book, and it's about these two twins. They're African American boys, and one is murdered by the police. So it's about how do I live without my twin, and how do I live as a Black boy in America. So it's one of those books again.
Yeah, like I've always been very curious about like the attachment between twin children and stuff. Like, like do they always rely on each other? Like when they're in their adulthood, do they still stay around each other a lot, or do they miss each other? Things like that. I always wonder about twins. So
I think
something like that is intriguing.
I think so. And it's like they feel each other's emotion.
Yeah, that actually happens. Like they can tell what each other's thinking, and I'm sure they must get really attached to being around each other, like when they're growing up. So when they're in their adulthood, I wonder how that attachment is able to sustain itself when they have to kind of branch off and build their own families and things like that.
Yeah, so this would be interesting because like his twin is dead, so there's no branching.
Yeah, so I might have to pick that up just out of my own curiosity. Is the author a twin?
I have no idea. He's not. His name is J. Cole. He's a baby. He's 22 years old.
J. Cole?
Not the singer.
Okay.
Actually, it's inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement, but it doesn't say it was his twin or anything. Just, that's just what it was inspired by. It's his debut novel. He's a little baby. He's 22.
Cool. Sounds good.
So yeah.
Anything else?
That's it. I mean, there's a whole bunch of other things, but we're gonna keep it short.
Awesome. So yeah, that was a pretty short episode, but there was lots to talk about as well. So we packed in a lot of stuff in that whole hour that we spoke. So that's good. So we'll be back next week to talk about what we actually did end up reading, because I get the feeling my list will probably change somewhat. But
Next week? You said next week.
yeah, oh sorry, not next week. I do a lot of podcasts. I get mixed up sometimes. But yeah, we'll be back next month to talk about what we've been reading. So yeah, until then, happy reading, everyone. Let us know what you've been reading. Make sure you're subscribing and liking and everything. And definitely send us your book suggestions too if you have books that you think we would like to read. Obviously, I'm into fantasy, sci-fi, mystery. I'm into a bit of everything really. Dana's into her psychological thrillers,
Right.
thrillers and things of that nature. So yeah.
Yes.
For sure. Okay, so thanks for listening, everyone, and look out for the next episode.